of the key arguments that was made for Scotland to stay in the UK was, well, if you leave, there's no guarantee you can stay in the European Union.
Yeah, yeah.
So people were like scared of that. So like, it wasn't the only argument. Don't get me wrong. It was just one of many.
Yeah.
But it was a big argument.
Yeah.
And a bunch of people were like, okay, well, I don't want to risk that. And they stayed.
Yeah.
And then a few years later, we had the other referendum on a whole of the UK basis.
Mm-hmm.
And all of Scotland voted to stay. Not all of Scotland. It was like 60% or something.
The majority.
The majority.
Yeah.
Still not a great majority, but the majority. And the majority, same thing, in England voted to leave, and obviously there's way more people.
Yeah.
So we left. So, like, the political system in the UK is really interesting, because Scotland has been talking about independence for years.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, for example, post that, Scotland people voted in the Scottish National Party, which is interesting because it was never that big a party. But then, with the higher discontent, they got all these positions because people were voting them almost like in response to, like, we don't feel like we're being heard.
Yeah.
So I would say compared to here, everyone in the UK would be considered way more liberal on a general sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm a Catholic, which in any country in Western Europe, but also in like America, would be generally considered to be more conservative politically. But my beliefs, personal beliefs, but also beliefs of a lot of people back home, would be considered incredibly liberal in this context.
Yeah.
So it always makes me laugh because in my head, I'm fairly centrist in my head.
Yeah.
But here I'd be considered pretty progressive liberal.
Wow.
So it's very different from here.
Yeah. No, it's incredibly different.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Okay. Would you consider just Scottish people in general punctual, time-oriented, anything like that?
So I personally am really not. But it's funny, there's like warring cultures. So the British culture is considered pretty polite and pretty passive.
Yeah.
Scotland is like a weird exception. I'm so sorry.
Oh, there's
it's another friend of ours, Josue. But anyways, I'm using
is he
names,
jealous
so I
that
apologize.
he's not
Probably.
here? Yeah.
But British people in general are quite polite. Etiquette's very important, and that does influence Scotland massively.
Yeah.
However, Celtic people like Irish, Scottish, Welsh, who are associated with
Josue, stop calling.
I don't know what he wants. Oh, it's another person. I'm popular.
You're famous.
Scottish and Irish people are considered more kind of rowdy, more party, more like, family, even more so than England. And part of that influences...
Josue's calling.
Oh my gosh. Is, what does it say? Oh,
Josue calling.
Great. So, point being, it's kind of a weird one. I would say moderate, not nearly as punctual as North Americans in my experience. Yeah. Not even close.
If you're 5 minutes...
Oh my gosh, it doesn't even
past,
count.
like, you're
late here.
You're
and
late.
Back home, that is not the case.
Yeah.
However, it is not the same as, like, I have a lot of friends from different places where you can be significantly later than that.
Yeah, like an hour late,
it doesn't
and you're
really
totally
matter.
fine. Yeah.
And that probably, I would say in general, isn't the case in Scotland.
Yeah.
But, like, at a party, for example.
Yeah, a party.
You would turn up an hour late and you would think twice.
There's party etiquette, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if that answers the question, but... I'm late all
let's
the time.
see.
Oh my gosh, it's not been 18 minutes.
So it's been 18? I feel like it's been longer.
Yeah, maybe. I just love talking about myself, so...
Okay.
Okay.
Let's talk about society.
Great.
How does society view masculinity and like gender roles?
It's a great question,
Scotland?
and it's interesting. And I'm a weird example because I'm so not masculine comparatively. And
You're still masculine.
Yeah, of course, but like kind of machoism is like very strong in Scotland. Like I was totally an exception growing up, and it massively influenced how I grew up. Like to be like strong, almost aggressive, to project power, to be in charge is huge in Scotland, especially the west of Scotland where I grew up.
I feel like that's why people picture like the American,
Outlander,
but like a dude like walking like this.
No, totally. That's how
like
it is.
a sword. That's
totally how it is.
Yeah.
So there's a huge emphasis on being like masculine, being strong, like dominating. Like it's like the end of the world if you're like gay because it's like really shameful. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. And then Interestingly, I would say, and I think other people would agree, it's kind of in another way, which I think these are complementary, like a woman-led society in terms of family.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
the women kind of like make things happen.
Oh, wow.
So, like I said earlier, for my example, my grandmother was the matriarch, and she had a very close relationship with her husband. And he was a very strong-willed character, but she was the mover and shaker. Like, she got stuff done.
Yeah.
And that's fairly common. So, kind of an interesting combo. There's strong roles, but they're probably more, they would be considered closer to more traditional gender roles.
Yeah.
In like a Western context.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's interesting. Because I feel like that's common for some families here, but
Not
it's
necessarily
usually
everybody.
the man's the leader,
Right?
But like really the woman, in my mind,
It's kind of
makes
the
it
same as
actually
that.
move.
Like the man's the leader in
Yeah.
Scotland too,
Yeah.
but the woman's the one who makes a move.
Yeah.
This is a huge generalization, and also now like Scotland is so progressive politically now, especially that is shifting.
Yeah.
Even as like right now, like there is a shift happening that's pretty significant. But historically and still pretty strongly, the roots are very much like traditionalist.
Yeah. Wow. Cool. Any other fun facts about Scotland? Anything that you believe is like the core of Scotland?
I think that could
besides
tell me.
Well, we already know. You know, the stereotypes.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Well, I think something that people might not realize is one, it's tiny.
Yeah.
Geographically, it's like a third the size of the state of Minnesota.
Yeah.
And only has 5 million people. But number two, the culture was shifted dramatically through the impact of like English power. So we have a language, Gaelic, but like less than like 1% of people speak it. Because if you had money and you wanted your kids to have money, they spoke English.
Yeah.
So a lot of our culture was really like suppressed. And only now are they starting to try and kind of revitalize it. So we're fiercely proud, but we did lose a lot of like culture, like song, art, and like language. But people are still weirdly very proud of it. So like we have another language called Scots, which is a diversion from English.
Sounds slang.
Yeah, it's kind of like slang, but they decided as a government, they're like, it's not a dialect, it's a language, and they recognise it as an official language. And most Scottish people will be like, oh, I speak Scots, even though true Scots is like really difficult, and most people don't speak true Scots.
Yeah.
But like we're the kind of culture where we'll be like, oh yeah, like I know that, like I'm Scottish, you know what I mean? So it's an interesting one because we're so fiercely proud of our culture, but a lot of it has been kind of lost and is inaccessible to most of the people there.
Yeah.
So I think that's interesting.
Crazy.
Yeah.
That's sad.
But that is sad, but I think it's starting to shift.
Yeah.
My little brother's teaching himself Gaelic and he's pretty good now.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
As we call it here, Gaelic.
No. Gaelic is Irish.
What?
Gaelic is the Irish language. Gaelic is the Scottish. They're very connected.
It sounds the same.
Yeah. Sure.
Okay, whatever. Okay.
Yeah.
I
That's
have
what
one
I would
more question in my brain.
say.
Oh, how has you being here like changed you, or
That's a
how
great
did you
question.
have to adapt? Like, what impacted you?
I had to adapt a lot more than I even realised. It was a huge adaptation. Big part was directness. I'd say in general North Americans are incredibly more direct.
Oh my gosh, I remember your first week here.
Yeah.
When we were all like in a staff meeting and you were so direct about something and everyone was like,
Because
and I was
nobody
like,
expects
it's
it.
just John Joe talking.
No, 100%. Super direct here, which I had to adapt to, and I'm still adapting to.
Yeah.
Etiquette, it looks very different. Manners. We use please and thank you and sorry probably like 4 times as much. Yeah, honestly, maybe.
Yeah.
And then also in America, I think like work ethic is very intense. People work incredibly hard. Don't always have a great work-life balance, and that's kind of respected. It's like virtuous here.
Yeah.
Less than it is back home.
Oh, wow.
And then another thing is humor. There's a lot less of an emphasis on humor here. And in Scotland, like Americans do things more. Like extracurriculars at high school, or they'll be like, let's go on a hike, or let's go to a karaoke bar, or like, let's do a wine and sip and art or whatever. They do stuff. Scottish people, British people in general, don't really do stuff. They go to the pub and they talk.
Yeah.
So conversation is
They're
like,
content with that.
yeah, that's like the emphasis. If you're bad at conversation, you're not fun to be around.
Mm-hmm.
In America, like people play board games with each other.
Yeah.
Which like adults don't do as much in the UK.
I'm just imagining
So
a bunch of Scottish people playing a board game.
right,
You
and
know?
they probably kill each other. Everyone
Yeah.
be cheating and like
God.
get drunk really quick. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, sorry, that was probably a generalization. But it's okay because that's a question.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are some of the things. I don't know if that
Mm.
answers your question.
Mm-hmm. How have, like, I guess, Americans, like, or America challenged you
Yeah, that's a
personally?
good question. I actually think the directness is a good example.
Yeah.
Like people will not say things back home because they don't want to offend.
Mm.
And I think a lot of Americans are actually fairly comfortable in
Mhm.
challenging someone for a good result.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I really love how much stuff happens here. Like some of it is oppressive and too much. I think. Like
Yeah.
for me, like there's a lot. Like we joke about it, and I'm sure a lot of the American people have heard the cliches of like consumerism here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But the other side of it is it's proactive, and their performances and the shows and the sports and everything is just on a grander scale,
Yeah.
which is so fun. Like
Yeah.
that is like really challenged me to be like, it's fun to do things,
Yeah.
and it's like it's good to be part of something big,
Yeah.
and like it's fun to like put a lot of effort into something and makes a big spectacle. You know what I mean? So that's really challenged me, I think, in a healthy way.
Nice.
Yeah.
Lastly, this is my last question.
Yeah.
What is, if someone were to travel
Mm.
to Scotland, what's the number one norm they should follow
That's a good
that
point.
they need to know?
Yeah, so same thing as we said before. I honestly think etiquette is huge.
Mm-hmm.
Like even if you're in the pub
Yeah.
or like at a restaurant, you would never say "I'll have." It
Mm.
would be considered incredibly impolite.
Oh my god.
You would say something like, "Oh, can I please have blah blah
Yeah.
blah,"
Yeah.
or I would love that if that's all right,"
Yeah.
even though you're paying for it.
Yeah.
So etiquette in general, like
Mhm.
just take politeness levels here and ramp it up,
Yeah.
because
Our
weirdly,
levels here are pretty low.
no, I
Unless
think
you're in
it-
the south. In the south, it's like
yeah, I did
much
really well
higher.
in the south
Yeah.
because naturally people were just like, "Oh yeah, you can adapt."
yeah.
So I would say in Scotland, not just in the UK. In the UK in general, be more polite,
Mm-hmm.
but in Scotland as well, like fidelity, loyalty. So if you're in, and people are very friendly.
Mhm.
Like I don't know if I communicate that. So like if you go somewhere in Scotland, I would say the main thing is the people.
Mm-hmm.
It's beautiful in the north and all that, but like the food isn't going to change your life. Like the cities can be quite ugly because they're like industrial
Yeah.
era,
Yeah.
but the people are loyal and fun.
Yeah.
So if you go, you should be aware, like, get in with the locals.
Yeah.
They're, like, a good time.
Wow.
Anyone I know who's gone to Scotland and is, like, not cared as much about doing stuff, but has, like, gone with the people,
Yeah.
loves it.
I've never been.
You need to go, you would love it.
Maybe Jack and I will come visit
Bro,
you.
you would love
Wait.
it.
Okay. And scene.
What just happens? Is it done?
I just.
Woo!
This is John Joe. Bye.
Thanks for having me.